Okay, so I am just going to give you a little brief reminder of polynomials. I know, and I know Mr. Vo, and I taught polynomials probably back in November, December, but some of you guys may not remember any of this information. So I'm just going to brief explanation of a polynomial. So polynomial means more than one term, but we have monomial, we have binomial. We're going to talk about all that stuff just to remind you what that means. Monomial is one term. So examples, you can have a constant, that's a one term, that's called a monomial. Linear, you can just have the 2x. So that's a linear polynomial, and it's only a monomial here. So negative 3x squared quadratic, and if you have 1/4 x cubed, that's a cubic. All of these are monomials because they only have one term. A constant is always a monomial. You cannot be adding and subtracting other things with variables. So a constant is just the number without the variable. A linear is sometimes a monomial, or it could be sometimes a binomial. Binomial means it has two terms. So this is really mx plus b for a linear. And so and that's for binomial, you have two terms like 4x minus 5 or negative 2/3 x plus 7. These are two terms right here. You have the x term and then the constant. Or you can have a monomial when you just have the slope with the x, so like 2x or negative a half x. So that's a monomial. So a linear can either be a monomial sometimes or a binomial. So these two things are the possibility. A quadratic is sometimes a monomial, binomial, or a trinomial. So if it's a monomial, it's just like negative 4x squared or 3/5 x squared. A binomial, that's a quadratic, will have like 4x squared minus 6x or negative 2x squared plus 7. So it has two terms, so it's a binomial, that's a quadratic. A trinomial of a quadratic is when you have your a, b, and c all in. So like negative 6x squared plus 4x minus 8. So this is a quadratic, that's a trinomial. Okay. Then, if I can turn the page here, a cubic is sometimes a monomial, a binomial, a trinomial, or a quadnomial. You could see it as 5x cubed or negative 2/7 x cubed. A binomial, that's a cubic, would have two terms, like 4x cubed minus 8, or you can have 4x cubed plus 6x squared, or negative 3x cubed minus 5x. All of these are cubics because the biggest exponent is 3. You can have a trinomial like negative 5x cubed plus 6x squared minus 9, or 6x cubed plus 7x minus 1. There's three terms in all of these. Negative 2x cubed plus 8x squared minus 9x. These are three terms. So this is a cubic, that's a trinomial. Or a quadnomial means you fill it all in. You have ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. So you have a negative 10x cubed plus 4x squared plus 6x minus 8. So you have four terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can keep on going to a quartic, a quintic, etc. Okay, so then this is how we would fill this in right here. So a linear is never a trinomial because it could only be either a monomial or a binomial. A cubic function is sometimes a binomial, so it could be like this right here. So this would be sometimes. A constant function is always a monomial. A degree 3 polynomial is always a cubic function. The degree of a polynomial is never negative. So a polynomial does not have negative exponents. And the leading coefficient of a polynomial is sometimes positive. You can also have it negative. So like for example, the leading coefficient of this binomial that's a cubic is 4, and it could sometimes be a negative, like this one, in negative 3x cubed minus 5x. Okay, so what are some examples of polynomials? Well, I gave you a whole bunch. I'm just going to put like 2x squared plus 3x minus 1. You can have fractions like 1/2 x to the 5th minus 6 over 7x to the 4th. But you cannot have the x in the denominator. So you can't have 1 over x squared, for example. That's not a polynomial. You cannot have a negative exponent. That's not a polynomial. You cannot have this going on either. Okay, so right here, a constant would be like 4. A linear would be in the format of mx plus b. A quadratic would be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. A cubic is ax cubed plus bx squared plus da 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 da. You keep going. And then a 4th degree would be ax to the 4th plus da 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 da. And then ax to the 5th is the 5th degree plus going down. So you go in descending order from 3 to 1 and then the constant. Okay, classify by type, number of terms. So if you have one monomial, you could have like 4x. That's a monomial. A binomial could be like 6x squared minus 7, 2 terms. A trinomial, well, you would have 3 terms, etc. Okay? So go ahead and go to the next video to talk about the graphs of polynomials.